The moment I stepped off the transport ship, I knew something was off about this planet. Galvin, for was supposed to be a peaceful trade hub, bustling with interstellar travelers and merchants, but the eerie silence in the air sent a chill down my spine. The sky was a deep shade of violet, 2 suns burning dimly above, casting long shadows across the metallic streets. I had been here before, once or twice, always for quick supply runs. But this time, I had a mission: deliver a package to an unknown client in the city of Zeltar. It was supposed to be a simple job: drop off the crate, collect my credits, and leave. But things never go as planned, do they? As I stepped into a neon-lit cantina to grab a drink and get my bearings, I noticed her. She was sitting alone at a corner booth, watching me. Unlike most aliens in this sector, she didn't have the usual cybernetic enhancements or heavy armor. She looked almost human. Almost. Her skin had a faint blue hue, and her eyes were large, luminescent silver orbs that seemed to pierce right through me. Her hair was stark white, flowing like silk down her back. And she was beautiful, dangerously so. I should have ignored her. I should have kept my head down and minded my own business. Instead, I met her gaze. She tilted her head slightly, as if studying me. Then, with deliberate grace, she stood up and walked over. Every step she took was precise, calculated. When she finally reached me, she leaned in close and whispered in a voice that was both soft and commanding, "I need your milk." I blinked. What?" I said, certain I had misheard her. "Milk," she repeated, her silver eyes locked onto mine. "You have it, yes?" I stared at her, utterly confused. Maybe she meant cow's milk? Did they even have cows on this planet? Maybe she was looking for some kind of exotic drink from Earth. Look," I said, rubbing the back of my neck. "I don't know what you mean." "You want dairy milk, like from a cow." Her brows furrowed in frustration. "No," she said, voice growing sharper. "Not from beast. From you, man's milk." I nearly choked on my own spit. Did she just say? "What the hell are you talking about?" I hissed, glancing around to see if anyone else had heard. The last thing I needed was to be the subject of some intergalactic misunderstanding that got me thrown out of a bar. She sighed, looking both impatient and slightly amused. "You do not understand. Your kind produces the fluid required for my people's survival." I took a step back, my mind racing. "Lady, I don't know what kind of weird scam you're trying to pull, but I think you've got the wrong guy." Her expression darkened, and for the first time, I felt a strange pressure in the air. Something about her presence became heavier, almost suffocating. A chill ran down my spine. "I do not have the wrong man," she said firmly. "You are human. That is all that matters." Okay, that was officially my cue to leave. "Right. Well, this has been weird. I'm gonna go now." Before I could turn away, she reached out and grabbed my wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong for someone so slender, and the moment her fingers made contact with my skin, I felt an odd warmth spreading through me. "I will compensate you generously," she said, voice low and urgent. "You do not understand how important this is." My heart pounded. This was not normal. This was very much not normal. But something in her voice, something desperate, made me hesitate. I exhaled slowly. "Look, before we go any further, you need to explain exactly what you mean by milk, because I think we're talking about 2 very different things." She stared at me for a moment, then nodded. "Come with me," she said. "I will explain." And just like that, I found myself walking out of the cantina with a strange alien woman who had just asked me for man's milk, without having the slightest idea of what the hell I had just gotten myself into. I followed her out of the cantina, my mind still reeling. The streets of Zeltar were alive with neon lights and the chatter of various alien species, but all of that faded into the background as I trailed behind this mysterious woman. She walked with purpose, weaving through the crowds like she had done this 1,000 times before. I debated making a run for it. Maybe this was some weird setup, some scam, or worse. But curiosity gnawed at me. What did she mean by man's milk? And why was it so important? Finally, we reached a narrow alleyway, dimly lit by the glow of a hovering advertisement. She turned to face me, her silver eyes glimmering in the darkness. "My name is Celia," she said. "I am of the Volari people. We are a rare species, one that relies on a specific human secretion for survival." I swallowed hard. "And by secretion you mean—" She nodded, her expression deadly serious. I ran a hand down my face. "Lady, do you hear yourself? This is insane." Celia stepped closer, her voice urgent. "You do not understand. Without it, my body will begin to shut down. My people cannot synthesize it. We can only obtain it from humans. It is not a matter of pleasure. It is necessity." I felt a shiver crawl up my spine. This wasn't just some weird fetish or scam. She was genuinely desperate. I exhaled sharply. "And if I say no?" Her gaze didn't waver. "Then I die." I had been in some strange situations before, but this was on a whole new level. And the worst part, somewhere deep inside, I knew I wasn't going to walk away. I let out a shaky breath, trying to process what she just said. There was no way this could be real. It sounded like some twisted joke, but the look in her eyes told me otherwise. "You're serious?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded. "Without it, my body will deteriorate. I have already gone too long without a source." I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache coming on. "And you expect me to just hand it over?" Celia took a step closer, lowering her voice. "I know this is strange to you, but it is no different from your species needing water or food. For Volari, human essence is life. We do not consume it as you might think. It is processed within our bodies to sustain vital functions." I shook my head. "Okay, hold on. If this is so important, why haven't I heard about it? Humans have been in space for centuries. Someone would have figured this out already." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Because my people keep our existence hidden. If others knew, we would become livestock." That sent a chill through me. I could only imagine what certain factions would do if they knew an entire species relied on human bodily fluids to survive. "So you just track down lone guys and hope they agree?" She hesitated. "Normally, we have arranged donors. But my supply was cut off." I frowned. "What happened?" Her silver eyes darkened. "He was killed." That hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just some strange biological quirk. This was life and death. And somehow, I had just become this alien woman's last hope. A heavy silence hung between us. The weight of her words settled in my chest like a lead brick. Someone had been supplying her before, and now they were dead. Who killed him? I asked, my voice quieter than I intended. Celia's expression was unreadable. "A group called the Syndicate. They control much of Galvin, for from the shadows. They do not know about the Volari. Only that my former donor had something they wanted." I exhaled slowly. "And now you're desperate." She gave a single nod. "I would not have approached you otherwise." I ran a hand through my hair. This was insane. 1 minute, I was just a guy delivering a package, and the next, an alien woman was telling me she needed my, well, milk to survive. And to make things worse, there were dangerous people involved. I don't even know how this works," I admitted, crossing my arms. Like, logistically, a hint of amusement flickered across her face. "It is not as crude as you are imagining." That's not reassuring. Celia stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Your body naturally produces what I need. A small extraction, painless, efficient. I have the necessary equipment." "Of course," she did. I sighed. "And if I help you, what happens next? Do I just become your personal supply chain forever?" She hesitated. "I would not ask that of you. One donation would sustain me for weeks. After that, I will leave. I should have walked away. I should have told her this wasn't my problem. Instead, I found myself asking, "Where do we do this?" Her silver eyes gleamed with relief. "Follow me." I followed Celia through the winding backstreets of Zeltar, my mind racing with everything that had just happened. The deeper we went, the quieter the city became, until we reached a small, abandoned structure hidden between two towering buildings. She pressed her hand against a panel by the door, and with a soft hiss, it slid open. Inside, the space was dimly lit, filled with strange-looking devices and scattered supplies. It looked like a temporary hideout. "This is where you've been staying?" I asked, eyeing the bear caught in the corner. She nodded. I had to move frequently after my donor was killed. The syndicate is still searching. That sent another wave of unease through me. "And what happens if they find you?" Celia hesitated. "Then I will not survive long enough to worry about it." Her words sent a chill through me. But before I could say anything, she gestured to a sleek, medical-looking device on a nearby table. "This will extract what I need," she said softly. "It will not harm you." I stared at the device, then at her. I still had a dozen questions, but one thing was clear. I had already gone too far to back out now. "All right," I muttered. "Let's get this over with." Celia activated the device with a few swift motions, and a faint hum filled the small room. I still didn't know what I was expecting, a needle, some kind of suction, maybe something worse, but the machine looked surprisingly sterile, like something you'd find in a high-end medical bay. I sat on the edge of a metal stool, my legs bouncing anxiously. "So, this isn't going to hurt, right?" Celia gave me a calm look. "It is completely painless. You may feel warmth, perhaps light fatigue, but nothing more." "Great," I muttered. "That's totally reassuring." She reached for my arm, her touch feather-light. I tensed, but her fingers were surprisingly warm despite her alien appearance. Gently, she guided my hand toward the device. A soft click, and suddenly I felt something, not pain, not discomfort, just a slow, spreading warmth, like stepping into a hot shower after being out in the cold. The machine emitted a quiet pulse, and Celia closed her eyes as if sensing something I couldn't. A moment later, she exhaled, her shoulders relaxing. "It is working," she murmured. I frowned. "That's it? No weird side effects?" She opened her eyes and gave me the faintest hint of a smile. "You are stronger than you realize, human." I didn't know if that was meant to be a compliment or a warning, but before I could ask, the machine gave a final beep and powered down. Celia released my hand, her silver eyes meeting mine. "You have given me more than you know." I rubbed my palm, still feeling the odd warmth lingering in my veins. "Yeah, well, let's just hope that doesn't come back to bite me." Celia's expression darkened. "It already has." A chill ran through me at her words. I straightened in my seat, suddenly hyper-aware of the silence around us. "What do you mean by that?" Celia moved swiftly, deactivating the device and sealing the collected substance into a small, opaque vial. She tucked it into a hidden compartment in her suit before meeting my gaze. "The syndicate has been watching this sector closely. They know someone new arrived today. If they suspect I've found another donor, they will come." I clenched my jaw. "Great. So now I'm on their radar too." She gave a small nod. "It is likely." I ran a hand down my face. This just kept getting worse. "And what exactly do these guys want? You said they didn't know about your kind." Celia's expression hardened. "They want power. Control. My previous donor worked for them, until he betrayed them. They don't know what he was hiding, only that it was valuable. And now, they will assume you have it." I stood up, suddenly restless. "Fantastic. So what now?" "We just wait for them to knock down the door." Celia shook her head. "No, we leave now, before they find us first." Celia didn't wait for my response. She grabbed a small bag from the corner of the room and moved toward the exit with urgency. I hesitated for half a second before following. I didn't like being dragged into this mess, but staying put seemed like a quick way to end up dead. As soon as we stepped into the alley, I knew something was wrong. The air felt heavier, charged with tension. The distant hum of the city was drowned out by the unmistakable sound of approaching footsteps. Multiple sets. Celia froze. They are here. I barely had time to react before a group of figures emerged from the shadows. 5 of them, all clad in dark, armored suits. Syndicate thugs. The leader, a tall man with a scar running down his cheek, stepped forward, his eyes locking onto me first, then Celia. Well, well, he said, his voice smooth but laced with menace. Looks like we found our little runaway. And her new friend. I swallowed hard. I didn't know much about the syndicate, but one thing was clear. These weren't the kind of guys you talked your way out of trouble with. And judging by Celia's tense stance, she knew it too. The syndicate enforcers spread out, blocking the alley's exit. The leader took another step forward, eyeing me like I was some clueless idiot who had wandered into the wrong fight. You must be new around here, he said with a smirk. Otherwise, you'd know better than to get involved in our business. I forced myself to stay calm. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just passing through. The scarred man chuckled. Oh, I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. You gave her something, didn't you? His gaze flicked to Celia. She's been running dry for a while. Now, suddenly, she's refreshed. I wonder why. Celia tensed beside me. Leave him out of this, she said coldly. The leader ignored her, keeping his focus on me. See, the problem is, her last owner, he didn't share. He kept secrets. We don't like secrets. He tilted his head. So, why don't you be a good boy and tell us what she's hiding? I glanced at Celia. Her fingers twitched slightly. She was preparing for something. Then, barely above a whisper, she muttered, *run*. I didn't hesitate. We bolted. We tore through the alleyway as shouts erupted behind us. Boots pounded against the pavement, syndicate enforcers closing in fast. My heart slammed against my ribs, adrenaline surging through me like fire. Celia was fast, unnaturally fast, but she didn't leave me behind. She grabbed my wrist and yanked me forward, leading me through the labyrinthine streets of Zeltar. Neon lights flashed past in a blur, and somewhere in the distance, alarms wailed. A blast of energy shot past my head, searing the air. I cursed. They're shooting at us now. They do not take prisoners, Celia said grimly. We rounded a corner, only to find ourselves trapped at the edge of a high drop-off. Below, air traffic whizzed past in chaotic streams. No way down, no way forward. I turned. The syndicate enforcers were closing in. Celia met my gaze. Trust me? I barely had time to answer before she grabbed me and jumped. For a split second, we were weightless, falling toward the chaos below. Then impact. A hovering transport. We crashed onto its roof, rolling from the force. I gasped for breath. Celia smiled. We live. I groaned. I hate this planet.